Love is a force that transcends all living species, and somewhere in rural Korea, an orphaned puppy and a kind cow have proven this to be true. This is the story of a heartbreaking tragedy that caused them to part ways, and why the dog cried once they were finally reunited. This little dog is Rookie, and he loves playing with this big cow, but don't let that size difference surprise you. These two are besties for life. They sleep together, eat together, and even give each other cuddles and kisses all the time. And sometimes little Rookie even annoys the cow with his antics, and yet she's careful never to step on him with her big weight. They're inseparable, but what seems like a casual friendship on the surface actually started as something much more intense. When Rookie was born in the barn, his real mum died almost immediately after giving birth, leaving the vulnerable little dog alone and scared. But then, the pup made a choice. This cow was going to be its mother, and the cow didn't hesitate for a minute to adopt this young dog. It was love at first sight, and the rest became history. Rookie got so attached to his cow mum that he didn't make any friends of his own kind, and it even seemed like he'd lost some of his dog instincts. Like mother like son, you know. But after 2 years, it was time. The cow had to be taken away to be sold for slaughter. Now the little dog had to fend for himself, and the farmers were sure he would. They thought he'd forget about his friend in no time, but they were wrong. As soon as the cow was taken away, the little puppy started making distressed noises and even started crying because he was afraid of losing his dear friend. This heartbreaking scene only got worse because the little pup couldn't take it anymore, and he ran out in search of the cow. He followed her voice and her smell and ran without looking back. Then, surprisingly, he found her. The moment these two saw each other again, they expressed how much they'd missed each other by showing the most adorable affection. But it didn't last long. Rookie was taken away, even though he clearly didn't want to go. Back at the barn, he sat where he used to sit with the cow with teary eyes, waiting for her to return. He wouldn't even eat his food without her. But she didn't come back. He thought he was doomed to a life of tears, but something changed. The farmer realized these two shouldn't be separated, and he can spare the cow to keep their friendship alive. So he brought her back, and the two were reunited. They were so excited to see each other again. Now they realized what being apart felt like. It's safe to say Rookie and his cow lived happily ever after on their farm, but out in the wild, things operate on a different principle. You're either predator or prey, but there's an exception to every rule. And this lioness called Kamunyak broke all of them when she became friends with an oryx. When observing rangers saw the lioness and the baby oryx together, they thought it was going to be just another snack for Kamunyak. What they didn't realize was that the two were perfectly friendly with each other. They slept together, kept each other company throughout the day, and took snug naps in the sun. The lioness was looking after the baby oryx as if it was her own cub, but sadly, as days went by, the situation became complicated. The lioness couldn't leave her adoptive baby alone because lionesses never leave their cubs behind, which meant she couldn't go to get food. She was starving. She needed to get something to eat, and although all her predatory instincts were telling her to make a quick snack of her friend, she didn't harm the oryx one bit. People began wondering how a lion can defy their very own instincts to such an extent. Scientists believe that Kamunyak must have lost her own cubs in a traumatic way, so her motherly instincts took over when she saw the baby oryx. And the oryx didn't seem to mind it one bit. Even during the hardship, they were each other's companions. But what the lioness had forgotten was that other predators were still around. To them, the oryx was still just prey and not a lion cub. One day, when they were both by the river, Kamunyak allowed her adopted child to wander off and play for a while. And just as she took her eyes off the oryx, a lion came and with a quick kill, made it its prey. When the lioness found out, she grieved as if she just lost her own cub. Perhaps this is nature's way of telling us that some friendships just aren't meant to be. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. But not all friendships end this tragically and abruptly. The oryx may never have returned to the lioness, but back in rural Canada, an unusual pair showed us how you can love someone even from a distance. This pet dog, Kate, and this wild deer, Pip, had absolutely nothing in common, and yet they shared what was probably the most wholesome animal friendship out there. When they played together, you could see that they were trying to be like the other. Kate would be calmer and more careful than she was with other dogs, while Pip would become aggressive. Pip was just a newborn when Kate's owner found her in the woods, crying for help. So she brought her to her house nearby, where the vulnerable little calf found Kate, a big, kind of dangerous looking dog. But in this dog, Pip found a mother, and Kate also did everything she could to give comfort to the scared little thing. Soon they went from mother and child to best friends who enjoyed each other's company. But deer grow fast. Only 2 weeks later, Pip wanted to be independent and go back to the woods, and one day she did just that. She ran off to the woods, leaving Kate behind looking for her. Turns out, dogs aren't the only loyal animals. Pip started visiting every single day, to the point that she'd only go back at night to sleep in the woods, and during the days, she'd sneak into the house and play with Kate. Soon, though, Pip grew up more. This arrangement wasn't working. She started living in the woods now with a deer herd. This time, she left for good. But even among her own kind, she didn't forget her old friend. Every year, for 5 years, Pip chose the area around Kate's house to give birth to her calves, and she'd visit her old friend there. They got too mature to play around, but Pip and Kate would see each other like two old friends over a cup of tea, reminiscing about the good old times. But this isn't the only time dogs have shown their maternal side. In fact, these kittens have a perfect mum. She even has a favourite. Georgia the dog played with them and greeted them every morning with loads of affection. It was a perfect relationship. The overwhelming love she feels comes from a sad experience. Her own pups were born premature and they all died right away. She was devastated. The dog rescue where she lived asked people to send them any motherless pups for Georgia to look after, but instead of puppies, they found a litter of 3 orphaned kittens. Georgia didn't even think twice. She loved them immediately and made room for them in her bed. Those were her babies. But then things got hard. Because they were in rescue, both Mama and the babies were up for adoption and they were at risk of being separated. And it happened. 2 of her 3 kittens were adopted by people, and Georgia got cancer. The family was broken. But slowly, things changed for the better. Through chemotherapy, the mama dog defeated cancer, and as it turned out, Georgia and her one kitty ended up being adopted together by the same family. The best part? The kitty she was adopted with was also her favourite child. Real comfort can lie outside your comfort zone. Just as Georgina opened her heart to a litter of kittens, so did this tigress to her former prey. This tigress is supposed to eat that goat, but instead, these two are walking around like buddies. This was one of the unlikeliest friendships in the animal kingdom. In a Russian reserve, the goat, Timur, was sent to the tiger Amur's enclosure as live prey, but instead of killing him, the tigress let it live because the goat didn't show any signs of fear. The goat's courage impressed the tiger, and soon they were friends. They played together, headbutted each other, slept near each other, and went exploring together. The tiger even attempted to teach him how to catch prey. But then one day, a year into their friendship, the tiger was in a mood. When Timur stepped on her, she attacked him. This injured the fearless Timur. Thankfully, he didn't die, and because this goat was now a nationwide celebrity, they couldn't let him die. So the authorities didn't risk it and separated the two. Timur lived 3 years after that and died of natural causes. Even though it ended in a breakup, their friendship was legendary while it lasted.